Welcome to the Self-Made Book channel. I'm Bianca Cole.
And I'm Byron Cole.
And today we are interviewing the lovely Joanna Jarjue, who you may remember from being on The Apprentice last year, where she made it to the final 5 and pitched her business idea. And today we're going to hear all about the business idea, what it takes to be in The Apprentice, and what it takes to be self-made. So welcome, Joanna.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I guess the first question, now you're out of the show, tell us what you're going to be doing moving forward.
Moving forward, I think I'm going to be doing a variety of things, but my main focus is going to be on developing the business plan that I actually pitched in the interview stage of the show. So that is in women's workwear. Since the show, if anybody watched the episode, you would have seen that I was questioned quite a lot on the wholesale element and about my product, particularly by Linda. So since then, I've decided to rethink the business plan, and I'm going to be manufacturing and developing own label clothes as well to go into the line.
Fantastic.
And why is that? Why do you feel that's the right move as opposed to a kind of wholesale-based scenario?
For various reasons. One of the things that I've realised since being on the show and people, even commenting on the outfits that I wore, is that I've got a very specific style when it comes to workwear. So I appreciate, the great response that I've had from various people on social media and the press about my outfit. So I'd like to be able to have more creative control to be able to transfer that into my own line. And I'd also like it to be something that's, quite mass market. So I think just the control and being able to hopefully see myself in major retailers as well in the future is important to me.
And where did this idea come from?
The women's workwear. It was actually second year of uni.
Right.
So it was my first time that I was, going for really professional jobs and graduate schemes at amazing companies who were, required me to dress a certain way. So number one, I was thinking, am I dressed appropriately? When they say, okay, you can come business casual, for example, for an internship interview, or it's business formal,
Sure.
loads of different, there's so many different elements in that particular spectrum that I started thinking, one, am I dressed appropriately? And two, I want to dress still like myself and I love fashion. So I started looking at different retailers just on the high street. And I could find, trousers from one major retailer, a blouse from another, and it was quite hard to sift through.
Sure.
And it was also very easy to fall into the trap of finding something that wasn't appropriate. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was actually a one-stop shop where women could go if they wanted to, update their full working wardrobe, or if they just had an interview where they wanted to really dress to impress and they knew that what was there was both stylish, affordable, and also appropriate. So I thought, this is the business that I want to develop in the future.
And my next question was going to be about price point, but you just said affordable. So is that kind of the market you're going for, more of a mass market proposition as opposed to premium luxury? Is that?
Yes, definitely. First and foremost, I'd like for it to be an accessible price point, because I do want, for example, even somebody who is a student to be able to buy something maybe as an investment. So it may not be, the cheapest of the high street in terms of price point, but it may be that you invest in one dress in third year when you know that you're going to be going for various graduate scheme interviews, and then when you get that amazing job, you'll be able to update your work wardrobe with us anyway. So I would like it to be at high street price point, and then I think in the future I will definitely look at doing a premium range as well.
And is the manufacturing going to be in the UK or is it going to be abroad?
Potentially, my first choice would be the UK,
Yeah.
Because I'm, still in development and I have to kind of look at, the bigger picture in terms of costs and
Sure, of
how
course.
I'll be able to do it, and whether I can do it at a certain price point that in the UK that will still be accessible for the market that I'm trying to target. So that's all in development, but hopefully my first choice is definitely for it to be made in Britain.
Excellent. And so of the kind of apprentice experience, what do you think you've taken from that experience that you've now utilised to improve upon your personal brand as well as your kind of business brand?
I'd say the biggest takeaway from The Apprentice would be just focus, and that's both business and personal. I think focus in terms of knowing who you are, no matter what challenges that you have, you know. So you're going to have ups and downs personally anyway, and you're going to have ups and downs in business. But I think focus in terms of knowing who you are and what, you know, your worth is, and that you can keep going no matter what challenges come along your way. That's one aspect of it. But also focus in terms of what you're trying to achieve in terms of the business. So one of the things obviously you notice in The Apprentice why people end up failing tasks is because, you know, you have a big brainstorm around and you say, okay, we're going to target the kids market for this and this is our plan. But then in the end, through development, you end up doing something completely different that doesn't end up catering to that particular market. Yeah. So I think, you know, having a couple of non-negotiables in terms of what you want to achieve for your brand and what, you know, the identity of it is. And then, you know, things will change along the way sometimes in business and you have to be malleable. But I think having those non-negotiables and keeping them will make sure that, you know, you end up providing the service that you intended for your customer base.
And what made you apply for The Apprentice?
You know what? When I actually applied for The Apprentice, I didn't think that I would get on for the first round. I knew that, you know, setting up this business was something for me in the future. But because I had just turned 23, you know, I knew that I was fairly young and I knew that I had to really kind of give something to be accepted. So I actually thought to myself, oh, this will be good to, you know, get a bit of practice in terms of how it goes. And then hopefully, you know, in a year or two, I'll try again. And, you know, that'll be the time that I develop it. But my main thing was that I had this business idea right back from the second year of uni. And it was, you know, it's a fantastic opportunity for mentorship and, of course, the investment.
Excellent.
So you were the one that decided to apply, you kind of saw it and thought, I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm going to get the application in, or did you get sent it by lots of friends and family who were like, Joanna, it's time, go for it?
That's a little dig at me, by the way.
No, it's not.
It's a funny...
I was forced to apply personally.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, he was like, you need to apply, this is you. But I just wondered, did you have lots of people around you thinking it was great, or did you just actively go out there and do it?
It's a funny story, actually, in terms of how I ended up applying. So I ended up going to an event that was titled An Evening with Lord Sugar, but it was with work. Okay. So I wasn't, you know, supposed to be participating or anything like that. I was just, you know, supposed to be there to kind of represent the company that I was with. And there was an open Q&A and they said, okay, last question, you know, who would like to ask Lord Sugar a question? And I just thought, it's now or never, you know, so I kind of put my hand up. Asked him a question, and the question was basically if somebody who was part of the millennial generation, particularly the younger side of the millennial generation, was wanting to pitch to a more mature investor, aside from a really well-structured business plan, what would you need, you know, to convince you to invest? And he was saying, you know, keep it simple. I'd like a translator, you know, to put it into Cockney rhyming slang. Basically, how's it going to make me money? Get to the point, basically. Right. Don't go with all the tech jargon or whatever you're going to go with. And one of the people who I'd attended the event with actually videoed me asking the question, and it got put on Facebook, and a lot of people were saying, oh my God, you know, you should apply. So kind of. So there was a bit of pressure there, but then also there was a bit of banter between myself and the person who took the video, and they were saying, yeah, I'm going to apply. And I was just saying, you know, if you're going to apply, I was going to apply anyway, you know, at some point in the future. Yeah. But let's see who gets further, obviously not knowing that I would actually get that far. So that's what kind of inspired me. So you and this friend both applied for The Apprentice at the same time. You obviously got on the show. Mm-hmm. They didn't. Well, I don't know whether they actually ended up applying, because I ended up moving cities after that, and I didn't tell anybody. And I actually saw him just before Christmas, and he was like, I can't believe you actually applied. I'm like, yeah. Oh, so so he thought it was just a funny joke. Yeah, because I thought he was actually going to apply. So when I went home that day from work, I was like, right, well, I'm going to apply. Yeah. Let's see who even, you know, gets called. How interesting. Yeah, so I mean, if he's regretting it now. I know.
So I think the deadline is today, in fact, for candidates for this year. What advice would you give anybody who wants to apply next year, perhaps, who's interested in going on the show?
I would say whatever you're gonna go and pitch, be passionate about it. Especially when you get to the stage where you're, talking about your business plan. I think it shows, and I think that, there's always going to be curveballs thrown in terms of the questions that you ask naturally, no matter who you're speaking to, whether you're at the apprentice auditions or you're speaking to an investor. But I think if it's something that you're really passionate about, it's something you naturally would work day and night anyway to know all of the answers, and your long-term goals. So I think don't just go with a plan just because it's a plan. I think really go with something that you do actually want to set a business up in and know about.
Excellent.
Yeah. So thinking about the Apprentice, obviously you had a few kind of curveballs thrown your way, I guess, on the show, whereby you were, perceived to be maybe, a bit aggressive and so on. I don't necessarily think that's the case, if I'm honest, having watched it and having known what it's like in The Apprentice and knowing what happened behind the scenes. But how do you feel now about the kind of perceived kind of microaggressions that seems to be kind of in the media about someone like yourself or, black women in general?
I think it's difficult because I think naturally when you're in that position, you always feel as if you are in a position of representation, especially if you're the only person who looks, a particular way. And I think there's always stereotypes around different, racial groups, and you're always careful not to play up to that.
Sure.
So it was difficult for me to kind of watch, even through kind of filming it and seeing, certain things, because it's always a vicious circle as well, because if, for example, in my case, I was, told that I was a particular type of way, the more you do it, the worse it is. So then it's kind of like, oh, well, I'll just kind of sit back. But it's one of those things that I think is a problem, but I think it's a much bigger problem way beyond me. So there isn't really much that I can kind of comment on that other than it's obviously disappointing. But at the end of the day, your work speaks for itself. And no matter what, I could have been portrayed as, I still ended up with the best record of the series. So sometimes it doesn't make sense no matter how much you try to push something on somebody.
And what would you say, I guess, is the best or most memorable experience of the whole show for you?
I would say I enjoyed the fashion task the most because it was so important for me. Yeah. But the biggest and most kind of joyous moment was when I won the first time as project manager, when I was basically told you have to be project manager, you don't get to know what task it's going to be or whatever. I think just because it seemed as if everything was stacked against me, everybody was expecting me to fail, and I could feel that energy, and everybody was ready to go for me as well if we did lose. But not only that as well, I think I'd made such a massive decision in terms of deciding to be late, which was a calculated decision, but the difference is that if I hadn't have been project manager, I knew it made sense by weighing it up, but nobody would have listened to me anyway. But I also knew that if I was wrong, I would have been gone. So it was just a massive moment for me.
And who was the easiest to work with, or your favourite people to work with?
Who did I love working with? I loved working with Anissa, just because she's really high energy. I also loved working with James, just because we always used to joke that he's like the male version of me. We just, in terms of decision making, it was always really easy because whatever I was thinking, he was thinking the same thing. So we were just always on the same page, so we could just bounce off each other. I enjoyed working with Elizabeth on the dogs task, but I sometimes enjoyed working with Elizabeth and sometimes didn't. But the dogs task was really nice. Those were probably
Do you still keep in touch with anybody?
Yeah, I still keep in touch with Anissa. I'm seeing Anissa later on tonight, actually. Still keep in touch with Sargent, James, Elizabeth, Michaela. Those are the main people. Those are the main people.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So how do you feel now? You have, I guess, there's a perception that you've been on television, so you're not just, a business person trying to start in business. You also have that kind of media persona. How do you feel about that, and how are you kind of using that to push your personal brand and business forward?
I think The Apprentice is really good for a platform. So you know, and the media stuff kind of comes with it. It's not really my focus at the moment. I think, you know, if opportunities come and they work towards, you know, and kind of complement my own personal brand and where I'm going in the future, then that's great. But in terms of a media career or, you know, anything like that, I'm not really focusing too much on that. In terms of just being in the public eye temporarily, or for the time being anyway, that's been okay. Everybody that I've met, you know, has been really nice, and certain things that I've done have been mostly well received. So yeah, it's been positive.
So who did you tell? Obviously, you have some non-disclosures. You can't tell everybody. Who in your family or friendship circle did you tell that you was going on to the show? Mainly
just my family and my two best friends, and that was it. So just my mum, a couple of my cousins.
You told a lot of people.
Told a lot of people, yeah.
Not that many people.
How did everybody react when they saw you for the first time? How did you reveal it to them?
The people who didn't know?
Yes.
Well, I just put it on social media, to be honest. There were some people that I felt a bit bad because I told some people that I was going to Gambia. So the people who I'd like specifically told that to, I was like a day or two. Yeah, sorry. I actually didn't, and this is about to come out just out of courtesy. But
did someone have your phone and was replying, or how did that work?
When you were in the Gambia, which clearly has...
Gambia, he was uncontactable.
There is network.
There is phones there.
Phones available.
Yeah, I basically said that I was going through like a cultural, not pilgrimage, but I was going through...
It sounds like a lie I told.
It's so hard, isn't it?
It's such a terrible lie, isn't it?
I basically said, I'm going on this thing, you know, out of respect. I haven't been to Gambia for quite a while, so I don't want to be on social media, and it's not about Snapchatting it, and it's not about Instagramming it, it's about really being in the moment.
Yeah.
And
I won't be answering my phone for a period of time that I'm not sure how long that period of time is.
And then I was like, I could be there for 2 weeks, but I could be there for like 3 months. Yeah.
So they took it well then?
Yeah. They were just excited.
Excellent. So how do they feel now that they've seen you? How do they feel about it all? They've seen you on television, you're their celebrity friend. How are they reacting to it?
Fine. I think just because I'm exactly the same, I'm not, you know what I mean? There's no reason to change, in my opinion. And I think the only thing that's weird is when people are with me, who know me and are close to me, and someone stops me in the street and says, "Are you Joanna from The Apprentice?" That's the only difference, really. Just that people who I don't know like recognise me sometimes. But they were just really excited, and for a lot of the people who I'd told afterwards, I didn't tell, you know, how long I was there for. They really should have figured it out because...
Well, they don't know when you were missing.
It's not sure. And not a lot of people know it's pre-recorded and stuff, so it's quite hard.
Yeah.
But I kept it a surprise in terms of how far I'd gone.
But your best friend knew?
Yeah, my best friend knew.
You're I didn't tell anyone. I was really bad. All my friends, even my best friend was like, so what week? I'm like, no, let's watch it. Watch it together.
Well, she ended up doing some filming for my Final 5 thing, so she kind of had to know in the end.
Yeah. So did you watch any of the show with your family?
Mostly. I'd say every single episode I at least watched with my mum.
Yep.
I think there was only one that I was in London and I watched that with my cousins, but still family. I think I always kind of needed to be with someone to be watching it.
Just be prepared for what you're about to see.
Yeah.
You've not seen it.
And it's so crazy because some episodes I was thinking, God, I bet this one's going to be a really bad episode.
Yeah.
And then it's not. Yeah. And then the episodes that you think are going to be okay end up being, so
the
I just had to be, I was on edge every single Wednesday.
And I remember the first episode, I was like, I'm not even in this show.
Same.
Yeah, the edit is so,
Same.
It was a good experience. Would you do it again if you could go back?
I would definitely do it again, and I would do it a lot better. Obviously, hindsight is a...
What would you change?
I think knowing now in terms of on a bigger spectrum what was going on, I just would have had a little bit more control in terms of certain things, because I think it was more of a personal journey, like not more of a personal journey, but I got more from it personally, or just as much as what I did in business-wise, because the tasks and actually doing what I did wasn't as much of a massive leap as I thought that it would before I went. So like, for example, in the first episode, you know, we sat for our first brainstorm and I was thinking, oh my God, you have £3 million turnover, you have this, you have that, because obviously naturally The Apprentice is always full of massive egos and what people have done. So people really let you know how successful they are right from the get-go. And I was thinking, well, I've just finished uni like 2 years ago. So I kind of thought, will I be, kind of out of my depth? But actually, in terms of the actual tasks and what I was doing and what I was contributing, I was a lot better in that sense. But I think as it went on and certain things were happening in terms of dynamics and how I was, I ended up not doubting myself in terms of my ability in what I was doing in the tasks, but doubting myself as a person. So it got to the point where it was, up to the final 5 or anytime it was boardroom, I was taking a lot of the things that were said to me personally and actually thinking, am I actually a horrible person? Because the more it's said to you, and in that really kind of confined environment, the more it gets into your head. And I was thinking, well, maybe I just need to kind of look in the mirror then, because maybe I'm just awful. But then now when I watch it back and I just think, actually, I'm not an angel, but I'm nowhere near what I was being told that I was.
Yeah, sure. And you've got no one really to bounce back with. You haven't got any friends or family to say, actually, to provide you that external perspective, really, do you? You're in a bubble.
I mean, one of the candidates, actually, I went for lunch with her, or breakfast, a couple of weeks ago. And at the time, I'd said to her, I really think that this is how things are going. I really think that this is what the situation is in terms of me and, certain things that are coming on to me, in particular. And she just kind of thought, because it's such a stressful environment, that I was just being a bit paranoid or whatever. And she actually said to me, I'm really sorry, because now I see what you were talking about, and you saw it so early on. But it is what it is. It's character building at the end of the day. And I think that there isn't much more that anybody can do to me there is, but in that, I've had a good run.
Good shock.
A good shock, definitely.
So what did you study?
I did politics at Newcastle Uni, and then I was supposed to go back to Newcastle to do my Masters in International Business just for the year, but then I ended up getting quite a good job within that summer, so I decided to start the Masters distance learning with the University of Birmingham, which is still on hold actually, because I put it on hold to go on the show. And it's just been mayhem now.
So do you plan on going back to work?
Potentially, that's why I put it on hold.
Yeah.
But it just depends on what this year is going to be, because I know that working full time before and doing the Masters, even though they said, it's like 15 hours a week, it's really not if you want to do it properly. So it just depends where I am. I don't know whether to see if there's an opportunity to switch it to an MBA rather than an MSc in the future, so we'll see. But I've passed the postgraduate certificate level. I think I was nearly at diploma, so I don't know how it works in that sense, but at the moment it's on hold, so
what's the plan for the future? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
In the next couple of years, I see myself definitely setting up this business. And I want it to be everything that I hope it's going to be in terms of own label stuff. If you're going to a department store and there is a designated workwear rail, I want it to be mine, and my clothes that are there. I definitely want it to be, a household name in terms of women's workwear. And I want to be doing stuff that actually means something. So part of my business plan was also having a percentage of the proceeds going to dressing a girl in the developing world and buying them a school uniform so they can also kind of dress for success. So hopefully I'll be able to implement that at some stage, or have some sort of foundation that's attached to the brand. But I really want to do meaningful stuff as well. I think coming from a politics background and also being born in Africa, I don't want to just do stuff that's, business-wise and that's it, and making money, even though that is quite important to me. I still want to kind of be able to look back and think, actually I've done something that means something as well. So and
what advice would you give to our younger audience, or those who are aspiring to do some of the things that you've done?
I would say one of the things that helped me, especially when I was at uni, is being really proactive. I think one of the biggest mistakes that you can make at uni is thinking, I'm going to get a degree, so as soon as I get it, that's it. Because people know, and maybe some people don't realise how competitive it is until you get to third year, and you know, loads of people are applying for the same things as you, and they have the same degrees and at the same level. So a lot of the things that helped me was going out and, you know, making sure that I was working all the time, looking for internships, looking for summer insight programs. And I think even from first year, people think, oh, first year doesn't really count, it's just to get you in second year.
It does.
But I would say definitely doing stuff like that. I mean, in my third year, I was basically, because I've got level 2 in sign language, so I was doing volunteering at a local deaf school in Newcastle. I was doing my paid internship, which was in recruitment, which kind of like my first introduction into sales in that kind of office sense anyway. But I was just doing loads of different things, and I think you have to be able to build a really well-rounded profile so that when you are in an interview, you've got so much to talk about, and people can see that you're not just like anybody else.
Excellent. And where can we find you, all your socials?
Basically everything is just Joanna Jarjue, so I'm so easy to find. Instagram, Joanna Jarjue, Twitter, LinkedIn. Everything, if you just type my name in. I think there's only one other person on Instagram called Joanna Jarjue, and it's a lady in Gambia.
Excellent, fantastic. And just finally, you've got 2 options. Either your top tip that you want to leave us with, or your top 2 books that have inspired you along the journey. Books or audio, you can choose.
Okay.
So which one? What's the quote? Which one do you want to go for?
I'm going to go for the 2 books.
2 books, great. Go for it.
And I have a feeling that one of these is probably going to change after I get my hands on the self-made book. But I would say Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, especially for people who, and I actually got it as a present. There's Lean In and there's Lean In for graduates, and I got that at my graduation. That's amazing. And I was going into, you know, the tech world, and Sheryl Sandberg is in that arena, and she just... the things that she says just opens your eyes up when you're going into kind of a corporate situation. And I would say the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yes, that one as well. I absolutely love. I feel like I really want to say another one.
Go on then. Yeah, it's fine. I only said 2 because sometimes you put people under pressure with 3.
Keep going.
For me personally, I also love Girl Boss. Sophia Amoroso, who was the founder of
That's
Nasty
on my list,
Girl.
actually.
So that one was amazing, and that one really inspired me, particularly wanting to set up a clothing brand. So that one's kind of like a personal one, that's, I guess, quite specific in industry. But yeah, those are my 3: Lean In, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and Girl Boss.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today. We really enjoyed speaking to you.
Thank you so much for having
me. And good luck on your journey. Because it's not easy, you know, navigating life after television. So honestly, good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been another fantastic interview with the Self-Made Book channel. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye.